How's it going, Star Wars fans? Welcome to the first match of the top 8 of the 2024 annual Retro Charity event. This format is Classic No V. Today we're going to be seeing Paul Todd Feldman, DRTORCH, face off against Pat Lima, SWC player. And it looks like both players are both online, so we should be getting started any moment now. If you don't know me, my name is Eddie Swabowski. I'm NRabbit on GEMP. This format is, it's not a traditional format. It's kind of you can almost call it a made-up format. It's essentially Premier Reflections 2, and with the addition of cards in subsequent sets, although it does not include cards with an Episode 1 icon or cards with maintenance costs. And as a result, the shields in those sets, like Coruscant or whatever set the shields are in, Reflections 3, are implicitly banned because the starting effect that starts shields is also banned because it has an Episode 1 icon. So again, this format is very similar to Premier Reflections 2, with the exception of a couple of new decks show up, such as Rebel Strike Team and Quiet Mining Colony come to mind because there are a few helper effects that come out in the later sets that really make those decks strong. And we did see a couple people running in the qualifying stage of the event, which was a 10-game blind qualifier, in which the top 8, of course, qualify. So I personally saw a couple people play Rebel Strike Team, and one person played Quiet Mining Colony. So it'll be interesting to see what other decks come out from this. Other notable decks, of course, are Watch Your Step and Agents of the Black Sun. Those objectives come out in Reflections 2, although there are a couple cards that make Watch Your Step even more powerful. For example, the All Wings Dark Lighter Spin combo card makes the space package in Watch Your Step even more powerful than it already was. And there's, of course, the similar or analogous card for the dark side. Doesn't see as much play, but it's still something to be aware of. And I personally faced off with someone who was playing that. So anyways, looks like we'll probably get started in a few minutes here. We'll go ahead and look at the standings in the leagues, if it's still up. Actually, I think it's not. So the top 8, we'll go ahead and look. It consists of SWC player, Mandarin, Pistone, DRTORCH, Brad Kipple, Mr. Yellow, myself, NRabbit, and How Did We Get Into This Mess? And so in the next coming days, we will all be playing our matches. DRTORCH and SWC player are the first. I'm playing tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Pacific time against Brad Kipple. Then I believe Mr. Yellow is playing his game against... that's a good question. Mr. Yellow, I know, is playing his game on Sunday morning, I think 9 a.m. Pacific. And then Monday, Pistone is playing. And I'm going to bring up the email to mention the matchups as we're waiting for the players to get started here. So Joe Horby and Michael Pistone, they're playing on Monday, I believe. Brad Kipple and myself play Friday. Johnny Chu and David Garcia Mandarin are playing Sunday morning. And then Paul and Patrick, DRTORCH SWC player, are playing in a couple of minutes here. So let me just mention, yeah, Ben Kenobi, how's it going? Let's see, I'll let them know we're ready to go. So we're ready to go. Maybe you guys are ready. Yeah, Dead Body, I believe this is the place where you can make fun of Dan. So it looks like DRTORCH is kicking off. He was the top seed. So he is picking the side. It looks like light side. And we'll just, I guess we're waiting now. I'm mostly able to listen as I'm work keyboard warrior stuff. Hell yeah. I'm actually, I'm starting a new job tomorrow, and so I took this whole week off. And so I've been lucky enough to prepare for the tournament and be watching Star Wars games during the week. But tomorrow, back to work. So, and here we go. Thank you. So, SWC player Darkside playing Hunt Down versus DRTORCH playing Hidden Base. DRTORCH is known for playing Hidden Base in quite a variety of formats. We'll see what flavor of Hidden Base he ends up picking. SWC player playing Hunt Down. Doesn't look like dueling Hunt Down, so just maybe a ground power type deck or something. Be curious how he takes, what directions these players take these decks, because you can take them a couple different ways. You can, there are things like Hunt Down Cheese, that is definitely a thing. It looks like it's probably just a ground power deck. He's running No Escape, which tells me he wants to keep Visage on the table and do damage through Visage. Mob points with the combo of You Cannot Hide Forever, a great card. Combines two really good cards. DRTORCH playing Insurrection, so pull docking bays. Staging areas, your Insight, either to pull Honor, which won't do anything really, so probably maybe just for the activation, and the Jedi Defense Value -1, and to stop potentially numbers, which be surprised, but it can happen. If you're trying to play, let's say, a Hunt Down Numbers build, for example, you wouldn't start No Escape in this format, with the idea being that you would try to trick Lightside into pitching Insight to get Honor turn 1, and then you would drop things like Emperor and Tech More, and then just run Numbers, and they pitch their Numbers protection, and now you just kind of win off that. That's definitely a strategy. But Paul here perhaps cautiously starts Insight just in case. And then, of course, No Escape tells Paul, maybe I don't need or want to pull Honor immediately. As you see, SWC player kicks off by pulling Grand Admiral Thrawn with Imperial Command. Grand Admiral Thrawn, great card from, I believe, Reflections 2. It adds a Battle Destiny on a Star Destroyer, so Thrawn on, say, Executor is, big immunity to attrition and 2 Battle Destinies. Very, very powerful card. And then if you add Imperial Command, of course, you get 3 Battle Destinies. So very efficient use of cards for a very big threat. And we see SWC player pull Executor before any activation. Always smart to pull before you activate in case you activate that card and end up wasting your once per game pull from mob points. It's generally unfortunate when you do activate Executor or say your system, because then you've basically wasted a card, because being able to pull it essentially nets you 1 extra card at the beginning of the game. So SWC player deploys the docking bay from hand. That's nice to have right off the bat. And he's searching his deck for another docking bay. Usual docking bays that Hunt Down will run in this format, something maybe like the Death Star docking bay and probably Cloud City, maybe Endor, and Crush the Rebellion coming out as well. Crush being great in this deck, it cancels Clash, which can be a nasty card, but is able to pull Evader and I Have You Now. And of course, Evader is comboed with Monarch, so it's essentially a way to pull Monarch and I Have You Now. It's also a way to, you can pull a card and pitch it to first turn Visage damage to kind of save you a little bit of. This makes me think about a Hunt Down Numbers counter assault using bombers and asteroids. Yeah, decks like that do exist. I've ran, not with asteroids, but like a Numbers dueling. You have all the high destiny characters, and then you trick them, they pitch Insight, and now you have Numbers and dueling that they have to deal with. So very nasty. So DRTORCH playing Yoda Stew right off the bat, putting some cards down. Maybe he wants for activation, maybe he's getting rid of his doubles. Oh yeah, pure NPE deck, negative player experience. But you know, in this type of event, in this type of tournament, you know, everything goes. It's you're trying to win. It's obviously we're all trying to have fun, but of course it's very competitive at this level. Yeah, throwing Brangus Sabak. I think the version I had at least one Sabak and probably a Brangus, maybe. So it looks like Torch pitched Power Pivot, and we see an immediate Grimtash lost. Ooh, that's pretty good. So he gets both unsalvageables. We see Mara Jade, Tarkin, Emperor, Janus, Executor, and Great Admiral Thrawn, but no Vader. But getting the two unsalvageables is huge because this card, fantastic card that came out post Reflections 2, is able to cancel Hyperscape and Power Pivot, both of which, of course, are great in a hidden base space deck, which looks like that might be what Torch is playing. But, I'm sorry, he did have a Vader. I missed that. But it also cancels Out of Commission, which is a combo card with Transmission Terminated, which cancels Visage. So, very useful card, and it's a used 5. So, fantastic card in this format. And we see Coward getting lost from reserve deck, and Torch losing a barrier from hand. Yeah, 2 unsalvageables lost. That's pretty significant. Fantastic card that you can use in a variety of ways. One nasty way is, of course, set for stun with unsalvageable on a matching like a pilot. So let's say you have Wedge and Red Squadron run, and then you just set for stun, bounce Wedge, unsalvageable the ship, and now you're just chilling because you just got rid of a ship, and now Wedge has nothing to pilot. We see Lord Vader coming down for -2 at the Executor with the intent to come down to one of the docking bays, probably Death Star, and flip immediately to stop damage from Visage. So basically, SWC players' plan here is to push damage as fast as possible. Both of these players are playing kind of opposite decks, but SWC player does have space. We saw that with Thrawn and Executor, and Paul here, as we see the Squadron Y-Wing, probably has a very, or at least a mostly heavy space deck. And so there may be little to no interaction in this game, or it might just end up being one big battle. So maybe this match is salvageable. The dad joke's coming out nice and early here. Alright. Sorry, I have something echoing on my screen here. Okay. So we see the Evader Monarch pool that I was talking about. Being able to play Vader now gets you Monarch with Crush. And we see a Tatooine docking bay coming from Paul. So that's very interesting. There could be a couple ways you can take this. Could be a balanced deck. Could be other tricks. But an interesting ad coming from Paul. Here we see Obi-Wan with lightsaber immediately challenging Vader. So trying to see maybe if he can just get Vader right off the table, and maybe he's running out of commission, and if he gets lucky, that could just be the game. Ouch! As he draws a 0 for Battle Destiny. So misses on the swing, but if he draws a 6, he still could get rid of Vader with immediate attrition. Of course, it's very likely that Obi-Wan dies here. He ends up drawing a 5. So, unfortunately, 1 too short, and he draws the 1. So, SWC player is going to peel 2 cards, and Obi gets lost from Torch. Interesting. We see an Imperial Command from the top, and this is some rescue. So another card that cancels out of commission. So SWC player very perhaps intent on preventing Vader from just getting out of played without a commission. And it also stops, of course, the combo, so it stops transmission terminated. So SWC player's plan, it seems, is to keep Vader on the table, drain here, and push damage through Visage. And once he gets the Saber down, it'll just be, what is that, 4 damage a turn. And then probably Emperor and Janus comes down for another 2 drain of 2. As we see a Beggar off the top from DRTORCH. So this is the plan, it looks like. Tatooine Docking Bay for Beggar. Now SWC player here looks pretty set up on 2 battlegrounds. Another thing we might see is Search and Destroy to push even more damage through. Again, the idea being if he puts enough damage on Torch before he's able to set up and flip, then that could be the game. Of course, on the flip side, if DRTORCH is able to prevent enough damage and get set up in space, he might be able to just lock down the game and just win in space. Because if he stays flipped, you have the nice effect that for each battleground system you control, you can cancel an opponent's force strain. We see another system coming from DRTORCH, which is Kessel and Kifix, both great drain locations for this deck. Garrett and Logan. So it looks, at least from here, SWC player has the tempo advantage. He's basically set up pretty well on 2 docking bays. He's got Visage going. He's got 10 cards in hand. Meanwhile, Torch has 3 cards. He has deployed 5 systems, so he could flip. And here comes Jedi Luke. So now the Visage damage is going to hurt SWC player as well until he can get Jedi Luke off the table. We'll see what his answer is, if any. Here comes I Have You Now, and which just can get cycled back with Janus. Janus, one of my favorite cards, being able to cycle cards outside of your draw step. So he pulled I Have You Now, cycled a card with Janus, and then put Force Lightning on top. Very likely that he's starting to set up his destinies. So we know that these 3 cards are a 5 something, and probably another 5, or maybe even a 6, maybe even a 7 if it's another Visage. So SWC player losing Rendili. That would be his system that he would pull from mob points if he had Executor in hand. And we see another squadron X-Wing being lost from DRTORCH. Still no ships, nothing deployed to space. Sometimes this ends up being kind of a game of chicken of whoever blinks first. And interesting. So Bith Shuffle happening at the activation, perhaps to shuffle those 3 cards. But yeah, it's kind of a game of chicken. Whoever comes down to space first might just get blown out. And so it puts pressure on, when do you flip, when do you come down. And Torch using X-Wing Cannon and the Signal from reserve deck, Red Leader and Red 1 from reserve deck. And security precautions. So this is looking a little scary now for DRTORCH, because once he flips now, of course, you don't take battle damage where you get probed. And once the hidden base is probed, then he's going to take 15 minus the number of systems and damage, which is, I always forget if this counts, but so either 10 or 9 in damage. Of course, you can do things like it could be worse to prevent the damage, but a deck like Huntdown sometimes runs high destiny cards like the It Could Be Worse Omnibox combo. Used 5 destiny that just a decent card to have. In the right situations, it can be game ending, like in countering and It Could Be Worse. Okay, so thanks, Dead Body. So it's saying that Rendezvous Point does count, so he would be taking 9 in damage if he gets flipped. As you see, Executor come down to Sullust. And Battle Order First Strike combo coming down from SWC player, basically saying, okay, fine, I will set up in space first, but I'm going to get free drains and you're not. So he's really just trying to push damage before Dr. Torch can kind of set up his hand, get the right cards, and we see the flip. So interesting time to flip. He does have 9 cards. One of the nice sides about the flip, the 7 side, is of course that you have to pay 1 every time you draw a card from your force pile, which if you do at the right time can be very backbreaking. I'm not fast enough. Oh, thanks Ben as well. Now on Dr. Torch's turn, I gotta believe he's got to find some ships or something. He lost a power pivot from the deck, but power pivot with a couple X-wings and a cannon against the Executor could force him to lose Executor, and then if he has no other space, then he can never flip him. And that's one way that Hunt Down could come back. Hidden Base can come back from this. If you can get rid of the space before you get flipped back, and then now you're locking down both the drains, and potentially you can get rid of Visage still with like an out of commission. So here comes the probe, and it is not Sullust. I gotta believe that if it was Sullust, Dr. Torch would not have flipped that turn, because that would give him a free, or basically guarantee that his system gets probed. Torch coming down with Spiral to Kessel. So already lost both unsalvageable, so the Hyperscape Canceller is potentially gone, but there's another card, the Gick combo card, which is comboed with Rebels Will Not Escape or something, but that card cancels Hyperscape and reacts as well. So if he's trying to set up a Hyperscape, that could be game ending, honestly, if he comes down with enough power. See Vicious still pushing damage. One thing to know about the Battle Order First Strike combo cards and of course Battle Plan Draw Their Fire is that you do not get the forced damage or retrieval from First Strike. So some people in some decks might opt to play them separately or just say First Strike, because if, let's say, you're doing all the battling, you might want that retrieval because it actually can be very very big. It's a two force swing each time you initiate battle. So Janice cycling some cards, potentially again resetting up destinies. Is it not unique? Which card? Oh, is that one you're talking about, Ben? So SWC player is down to 22 cards, so he's essentially at enough cards where he can start cycling or activating right down to whatever he sets up with Janice in one turn. So at this point, he's probably setting up some pretty good destinies. Yeah, you can't play the combo and the individual card. I don't know why you would necessarily. So here comes the drain canceling, so he cancels 1 drain from the Hidden Base 7 side. Presumably, yeah, drain of 2 at Sullust, and then he's going to take 3 from the ground drains. Yeah, I'm not sure why you would play the combo and the individual. Let's say you either play the combo or you play the separate cards. Lost in the Wilderness coming from hand. Here comes It Could Be Worse. So here's the risk. He might have an It's Worse, in which there it comes. So Dr. Torch plays It Could Be Worse, and SWC player plays It's Worse for the whole thing. Banking that he doesn't have a It's a Hit, I believe is the Canceller. And that's it. Ouch. That's a big... I think at that point, Dr. Torch just basically had to risk it, but now he's going to lose, what was it, 19 force? And so in a differential situation, which this is, of course, a differential, it looks like he's going to be at 22 for SWC player. Although he could have a couple cards left, so maybe, I mean, he's not going to push any more damage SWC player will be just lose from hand. But 22 differential is it's a lot. It's a lot to overcome. Of course, the way it works being in the next match when they switch sides, in order for DRTORCH to win the match, he would have to win the game by more than 22 life force. And so I have to write that down so I don't forget it. Yeah, it could be worse is a good card in the right decks, right situations, but sometimes it's you could just auto lose with it's worse. Yeah, they're playing game 2 right after. Yeah, Visage, I mean, it's basically game over now. Maybe Torch tries to push a little bit of damage. We see the lightsaber come down. He's got 3 in hand, 4 force down. Basically, nothing to work with. Yeah, it's worse. So it's possible that DRTORCH had it's a hit, I believe is a card that cancels its worse. But I think SWC player just took the gamble. He's already ahead, so he doesn't. If he loses, basically, if he time walks himself by using all the force for its worse, and Torch has the it's a hit, it's not terrible because he's pretty far ahead. But in this case, the gamble paid off, and it basically won him the game. Yeah, so I think at this point, SWC player just loses from hand, and yeah, Torch should probably just draw up at this point. He's going to be pushing 1, 2, 3, 4 damage, so he'll get one more turn, I guess. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't draw up. Although maybe I wouldn't draw up, but he'll probably just move Executor in front of Kessel on his turn, right? He'll drain. One gets canceled. Move Executor in front of Kessel. Maybe you move Vader Tarkin in front of Luke. Or I guess I forgot about Visage. So he'll take. So he deploys another one. I'm not sure why. I mean, at this point, it's going to be like 1 or 2 cards, right? Because he'll take one from Visage. Well, the reason you wouldn't play It's Worse is because if you're in a situation where the game is more even, and maybe you need to deploy some cards, and you activated 19 force and you use all that force for It's Worse, and Torch has It's a Hit, you've basically given up your entire turn. You don't draw cards. Let's say you're also low on cards, right? So it could be you could completely set yourself back one entire turn for nothing. And that could be huge. Right, yeah, and especially in a differential game, it's all the damage matters. It's not who flat out who wins here. It's how do you win by as much as, or how do you lose by as little as possible. Yeah, I mean, I think in the situation he was in, it was fine because he was so far ahead. It's not going to hurt him any. He's still going to be pushing, 6 some damage here. And GG. That's true, yeah, lost pile counts. Okay, so if I can find my pen and write this down. So it is 22 force and then 16 to 45. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have a 5-minute break. And how would I annotate that? Anyone in the chat help me out here? And how to annotate this on the text here, just so it's available. I can just write it or someone can write it in chat. So 22 life force, and then 45, or excuse me, 1610 lost piles. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I actually used OBS. Yeah, I know how to do it. I'm more curious about the nomenclature. I guess how would I write it in the best way? Okay, yeah, it looks like we have a 5-minute break as I figure this out. Okay, thank you. Plus 22, 16, lost pile. Thanks. That works, and I'll just move that, I guess. Okay, I think that works. Yeah, thanks guys for watching. Looks like Torch has the first table up, dark side. And we can see if DRTORCH can come back from a 22 force deficit. Yeah, he definitely plays It Could Be Worse a lot in his decks. If they don't have a grabber for it, or they don't have a, an It's Worse, it can honestly lock down the game as well. It can just win the game with a single It's Worse in the right situations. So again, this is the 2024 annual charity retro event. The format is Classic No V. We got the top 8 games going right now. The first match of the top 8, DRTORCH, Paul Todd Feldman versus SWC player Patrick Lima facing off. First game, SWC player pulled off the win with the huge It's Worse with the plus 22 and life force. And then lost pile count 45 and 16. Yeah, I think the if Hidden Base is able to set up, get your get like Rebel Fleet out, get your cancelers out, or your ships, cancel Visage, let's say, then you can lock down the game, because single Executor comes out, and you can easily kill that with Hidden Base and Beggar. But the amount of damage that SWC player was pushing through with just Vader, Visage, was a lot. And I think he also lost a couple key cards right off the bat. Torch did have a nice Grimtash, knocking out both unsalvageables, which is huge. But SWC player just was able to set up and find all his cards with Janice and just keep pushing damage. So we'll see what these players are playing next. Hunt Down is probably likely to be a pretty popular deck in this format. In Reflections 2, it was very strong with the addition of No Escape and cards like Thrawn, Dr. E Combo, Shizor, and this format, Classic No V, I think just makes it even better. Other decks do come up. Watch Your Step. I mentioned Rebel Strike Team becomes a thing. Quiet Mining Colony is now a thing. But Hunt Down definitely a very strong, solid deck. Let's see. Sorry. Cheezor. Alright, give me 1 second, guys. I will be right back. Okay, looks like the game has started. Cheezor. Alright, so again, it's going to be an uphill battle for DRTORCH. He's got to overcome 22. That's pretty. That's definitely a tall order. It can be done, but I guess it depends on the decks. As a reminder, the deck lists were submitted last night, so all decks have been locked in. You cannot change decks in between games, in between matchups, etc. So everyone basically had to make a good, educated guess on what would be a strong deck. And we see interesting choices here: Bring 'Em Before Me and Throne Room Mains. I've seen a lot of people have been playing a Bring 'Em Before Me with a free Executor package. Another card that comes available in this format is They Will Never Again Leave the City, which allows the Executor to be played for free once per game at Bespin. So the idea being you have turn one, instead of pulling, let's say, Emperor, you can pull Piet, which pulls Mirajek, which pulls Bespin, and then you pull Executor with mob points. If you have one of these, you cannot hide forever, or They Will Never Again Leave the City. You deploy the effect. It's a 5 destiny, so you have maybe 4 or 5 of them, and then turn 1, you have Executor at Bespin. And then turn 2, you pull Emperor, and then you just start pushing damage. So that's something that a lot of people have been playing. Let's see if that's what Torch has. And then on the other side, light side here, we have Throne Room Mains from swcplayer. He plays this deck a lot. It looks like he's going Insurrection, combo, your Insight staging areas, and Battle Plan, draw their fire. This is not the Nudge version of Throne Room Mains, which we see more in Premier to Death Star 2, where you'd use careful planning instead of heading for the Medical Frigate to start the farm and the, I think, swamp, and then you would pull 2 nudges, and it's a faster deck because you get more activation. So this is, but the problem in this format is with no escape, those diamond sights give your opponent more force generation, and you can drop there for almost free. I think it's like -3 deployed to diamond sights. So swcplayer having a decent start with at least 1 Twix in his opening hand, dropping down Do or Do Not, Wise Advice, which is Sense Alter Protection, and Free Grabbers. And then we see the Docking Bay pull. So swcplayer is probably playing something like Homo Docking Bay, Hoth Docking Bay, a bunch of 2-0 Twix sites, and probably something like a Super Home 1. So Kessel launching the assault, all the fish guys, and then you can basically just stack at Kessel and push 4, drain of 4 all game long. And then of course you have guys like Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, Obi-Wan to battle on the ground at the docking bays. Probably running things like maybe Clash of Sabers, Resilience, Fallen Portal, so a bunch of powerful cards on the ground too. He might be running Sense Alter. It's a little less common, I think, in this format to run Sense Alter, but actually he runs Do or Do Not, so he's not running Sense Alter, or very unlikely that he is. All right, we see Wakilimu coming in Executor Docking Bay and Reactor Terminal, which DRTORCH plays in a lot of his decks. It's a pretty good card for being able to cycle your hand, get the cards you want, put the ones you don't want back, and basically kind of shape your hand and set up some destinies. Wakilimu signals to me, if I were playing, that okay, it's some sort of a tie deck, because you probably play this if you run some sort of ties build, because you can put Sinar Fleet Systems and start retrieving. So I guess we'll see what kind of a tie build, if he is running a tie build, DRTORCH is running. Also interesting, though, is that he did not deploy the Emperor turn 1, which is usually what you do with Bring Him, is deploy Emperor to a docking bay turn 1 to get the activation boost. So this Luke Skywalker, which comes down for SWC player, came out in Reflections 2. It's possibly activated him, yeah, but then why didn't he draw, right? If it's in his force pile, now you're setting yourself back 3 turns by not drawing, or 2 turns. Anyways, this Luke Skywalker is very good against Bring Him Before Me, because it basically forces the opponent, if they capture Luke, to put Vader at the throne room. So it removes Vader from the ground, and so it's a little easier to battle. And we see Palpatine come down to the throne room. So if he's not coming down to the docking bay, yep, I would expect then an Emperor's Power build, which is exactly what we see. And so now this Luke actually is not as good, because if and when this Luke gets captured, Torch will just, if he moves him over to the throne room, then Torch will just duel him every turn. On the flip side, you can do the dueling and potentially be pushing 3 damage a turn. So good card against a Bring Him Before Me ground deck, but maybe it's a little not as good against an Emperor's Power build, where you don't really mind sitting at the throne room all game. And it looks like that's what kind of build Torch might be running here. We see Piet pull Mirror Jack, so maybe he is running the ties build, Emperor's Power with free Executor. That's definitely what it's looking like, but nothing else. So it looks like he did not activate it. Maybe he just didn't want to, he wanted to do this all one turn. I'm not sure. SWC player just draining for 1. No damage coming down from Torch, so SWC player is probably just happy enough to draw some cards, find some stuff, set up. Alright, see you later, Ben. Thanks for joining. Here comes Tatooine Docking Bay from SWC player. Very likely he's playing Beggar then, because we saw Draw Their Fire get started and Tatooine Docking Bay. So it's probably a Beggar, Draw Their Fire with Super Home 1 would be my guess. And we see Luke Skywalker come down the docking bay. He's, of course, immune to, where is it? Always Thinking with Your Stomach. Very annoying card if you're by yourself draining at exterior planet sites, which Tatooine is. So he's pretty safe down here. Vader comes down, of course he'll get captured, and then he could move him over to the throne room, but maybe you don't want to do that, because then you're losing 3 a turn. And here comes the docking bay from Torch. Both players probably playing a little, just trying to set up. Of course, SWC player with the 22 life force differential advantage that he has, probably just needs to push damage in. He doesn't really care if he loses necessarily, as long as he doesn't lose by, if he loses by less than 22, which, again, it's probably likely. It's not impossible, but it's definitely likely. that he's able to survive that much or push that much damage through on Torch. And here comes Bespin, as we thought. Free Executor build. So Torch now just needs to find the effect, and then he can plop down Executor for free. See Force Drain of 2 now coming from SWC player. So Torch basically has kind of a bit of a clock now. Again, 22 is a lot to overcome, because that means that if at some point you're at less than 22 life force, SWC player could just draw up and kill himself basically. Of course, he has too many cards to do that at the moment, but you basically don't have a lot to work with. Reactor Terminal, though, being an awesome card in this situation, because you can draw up and then put stuff back down without screwing yourself on differential. So maybe at the end of the game, after he's gotten everything and set up, he can just plop down his whole hand and then win the game by over 22. Order to Engage, another great card seen from SWC player. It forces your opponent to battle you at every location where you both have presence. But you can do some nasty tricks with Order to Engage with things like Dodge, Hyperscape, Arcona even. Other cards like Yoda's Gimmer Stick or Calrid something from one of the later sets. You basically plop down a character that your opponent can't battle, and then you just eat Order to Engage damage. Just because you both have presence, but you can't battle there. Kashyyyk coming down from DRTORCH. And we do see the TIE Interceptor. TIE Interceptors being a nice card because they can shoot twice. So during each battle, may fire one starship weapon twice. So you're able to put the cannons on, and really just you can snipe 2 ships, and then you have Emperor's Power for Battle Destiny. So you can really, if you stack your destinies right, which is pretty easy to do with Reactor Terminal, against something like Watch Your Step, let's say they stack 3 ships at Kessel, a lone TIE Interceptor and cannons can clear out 3 ships. So very powerful setup. Torch just looking now to do some, put some pressure back onto SWC player. Uses No Escape to get the TIE Interceptor back, and then deploys 1 to Kashyyyk just to push his own damage of 2 through. Again, SWC player trying to either win or lose by less than 22. So Tunnel Vision from SWC player, looking to potentially find some things. Interesting that he opts to pick to play Tunnel Vision as opposed to the combo Control Tunnel Vision. The downside is, of course, of playing this one is you don't get the control part of it. The upside being that you have a higher destiny. Of course, one thing that another reason you might do that is if you're looking to grab control set for stun from your opponent, because if you're setting up at Kessel, draining for 4, and your opponent, let's say, is playing Brangus, and you don't have a way to grab control, they can just stop that Kessel drain all game long with Brangus and control. But if you have a grabber, of course, you can stop them looping control set for stun, and then you're still able to play your own Tunnel Visions. Interesting. Inserts. Okay, so SWC player playing Anger, Fear, Aggression with Throne Room Mains. I like it. So forcing a little bit of interaction here. Bith Shuffle coming down. Shuffling DRTORCH's deck. Presumably he's already got some destinies tracked with Reactor Terminal. Also SWC player probably setting up his own destinies for probably 2 turns from now. And Twilight Advisor coming from DRTORCH. Maybe he's grabbing Dreaded Imperial Starfleet would be my guess to stop the drain at Tatooine. So both players not really, interacting so much. Torch kind of staying in space. Oh, sign our fleet systems. Okay, so for the retrieval. SWC player staying on the ground and saying, okay, basically come at me. And if you don't, then you lose 4 damage. One thing that makes can kind of be nasty for dark side is if, let's say, I have Luke out here and I have anger, fear, aggression that pops in order to engage, and they come down with 1 character and you barrier him. You immediately now, and if so, there's the anger pop. Now, if you can't battle here, you're going to take 3 from order to engage and 4 from the insert. So that's 7 damage because you weren't able to battle there, which of course can be is huge, and especially in a game where the differential is 22. Now you're down to what, 5 cards you have to work with, 6 cards, meaning you can't commit more than 6 cards to the table or play them lost. So very, it looks like it's an uphill match for Torch right now. We see Monarch lost, that gets grabbed, and we see there's home 1, so we were correct about the super home 1. Mirix Terex, basically like Janus equivalent for the light side. There's the barrier. Sorry about the mesh blaster proficiency. Han, Blount, Signal, another Luke, Tunnel Vision, and Obi. So SWC player, no doubles, but a lot of characters they can just come down and beat down the opponent. See, drain a 2. Kind of surprised that he tossed Bis Shuffle, Desperate Reach combo, but I guess he didn't want the destinies to be tracked. So this is the card I was talking about. This character here, if the dark side has like a Doom stack somewhere, then you can just plop him down in front of the Doom stack, and with order to engage, they can't battle, and now they take 3 every turn because you can't battle this guy. And he stops. It's almost like an undercover spy that's not undercover. And they must never again leave the city, coming down from DRTORCH. That's the effects that gives you the free executor. I imagine we might see it come down if he's playing this. Yep. And keeping an eye on the loss or force pile counts. 25 down for Torch, and of course 31 or 41 hand and life for SWC player. I think if SWC player can find Kessel, then that just probably might be the game in terms of how much damage he's going to start pushing through. Of course, you can move, Executor in front of Kessel. He's got some forfeit fodder, and he's got 2 destinies. But now he's peeling 4 from the insert. Overwhelmed, very interesting choice. You can do a lot of nasty things with Overwhelmed in the right situations. So say opponent has Super Home 1, bunch of characters, and they of course have Major Hashin, which stops lateral damage. So one thing you could do is set for stun Major Hashin, drop any ship down, like a TIE, and as long as they don't have a weapon, which is pretty likely, or a Jedi, also pretty likely, then you play Overwhelmed on Super Home 1 and everything goes to the use pile. So it takes a little bit to set up, several cards, but of course that's why you have something like Reactor Terminal to cycle through your deck, set that up, and then that's a way you can deal with something like Super Home 1. Here comes the Grimtash lost from SWC player. We saw First Strike get lost from Torch. So it reveals Forlom, another 2 ties which are going to get lost, a barrier, there's the set for stun, Squadron, Grabber, U3PO, and a Janus. So U3PO would be able to stop this drain. Of course, we know that SWC player has How Did We Get in This Mess combo card. Now Torch is at 24 hand in life. So without some retrieval, which I guess he could retrieve with the squadron, yeah, it's not looking good for Dr. Torch here. If SWC player is able to push just a little bit more damage, then I mean that's basically game over unless he can retrieve more. But aside from the Sinar fleet systems, there's not too many good ways to retrieve for Darkside. Outside of something like, you know, Cloud City Sabak on the casino, but of course that's not going to be in this deck. And another insert coming down, which of course, if and when it pops, will be devastating. Battle plan, of course, forcing Torch to activate because he has to use Force to Drain. So pretty nasty deck the SWC player is set up here. We got inserts, Throne Remains, of course, just being a good deck in general. Very fast, has a lot of power, and it either punishes opponent for coming down on their sites, or just has its own single site that it can drain at. And there we see the insert pop again. So unfortunately, if Torch comes down with Vader, he won't be able to battle because Luke will immediately get captured. Oh, is it still just old and feeble in open? I don't play open at all. I've played one open game once, and that was it. So I don't know. I strictly play retro formats only, mainly for the purpose of I like the pictures on the retro ones. Okay. So we do see drain at 2. Torch still just trying to push damage. Here comes the retrieval with the tie at the docking bay. Interesting. So, I believe so. He can actually still battle and draw Battle Destiny with Emperor's Power, and then just lose the shield off the top. Ooh, okay. And as I was saying, Rebel Barrier coming down, which now he has presence, and the insert popped, and so I believe that's going to be a 7 force hit against Torch. The idea being is you could drop this here, you get the retrieval, battle Emperor's Power, lose 1 off the top. This is, let's say, a 6. And then Luke goes away, and you got your retrieval. But Barrier, of course, stopping that. And there's the order to engage damage. And I think the insert popped, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, so... And now 4 from the insert. So very brutal combo. 7 force swing just for that. And of course, again, on the other side... Now Luke can battle into a power 0 sword. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I think it's fine. He knew he had the barrier, right? He saw it from the Monarch. Oh, okay. So this is probably just game right here. He's gonna beggar, which means he's not gonna be able to gick the damage. Presumably he has something and then a high destiny on top, right? Something to burn and then a high destiny. Looks like he's just gonna... Here comes Han, so multiple battle destinies. Yeah, I think he knew the barrier was there, but I mean at this point it doesn't matter at this point. So he's gonna take probably so whatever 12 in forfeit. Let's assume that this is a burn card and then it's a 6, and so 6 and 6, so he'll be able to handle 12 damage, but 15 plus 2 battle destiny, so 3 plus whatever the 2 battle destiny is. Yeah, I can just picture them, they're just these TIE fighters parked on the ground, and then they're just slicing them up. But yeah, so Gick's not going to be able to... There's going to be no Gick. He's going to take 3 plus whatever the battle destiny is if he loses for the... one for the Emperor's Power. Otherwise, it's just, I mean, it's game anyways. Yeah, and GG called. So, great game from both players. Really brutal. It's worse coming in from hidden base, which definitely changed the tide of the game. It really puts a lot of pressure on this match because it changes how much Darkside is able to deploy onto the ground. So, anyways, good game from both players. Excellent to see what decks these guys have been playing. SWC player moves on to the top 4. And yeah, so tune in. Tomorrow I'm playing my game, 8 p.m. Pacific, against Brad Kipple. I believe we're going to be playing both games. So thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. And good luck to you as well. I think you're playing Monday, right? Monday nights, yeah. So good luck and thanks. Yep, thanks, Jared. I'll see you guys